Hello friends, welcome back. We are discussing Domain 1 security and risk management, and in last video we discussed risk terminologies. In risk terminologies we discussed various definitions and terms which are kind of required in the discussion of risk assessment, risk management, business impact assessment, continuity planning. Everywhere you will find these terms. So it was very important to go through with these definitions. Now, these definitions actually represent the physical reality of the subjects which we are studying basically. Like when I say risk, so what is risk? What is vulnerability? What is threat? What is exposure? If we can't relate these terms with our day-to-day life, it's very difficult to really understand the questions framed around these concepts. So I hope you have understood all those definitions in true sense, where I talked about asset threat pairing, what is asset, and how a threat acts on an asset by taking advantage of the vulnerability. Now, if an asset is vulnerable, is having some weakness, this gives rise to some exposure. And if there is an exposure, then there is a risk that a threat will exploit that exposure, right? So this kind of relationship is also very important to understand. Next, we are going to discuss some mathematical equations. So when we discuss mathematical equations, we basically see the relationship between these terminologies in action, right? So when we say risk, how we calculate risk mathematically, we can't be very subjective in all the situations, because we deal with when we are in business, we deal with money, profit and loss. So everything we have to quantify. Now what I think is, before jumping to the mathematical equations in calculating the loss expectancy and other things, it's kind of important to look into some of the important documentations around these terminologies. Basically, documentations are not around the terminologies, it's other way around. These terminologies are around those documentations, right? So you might have guessed I'm talking about Nist documentation, and if you look into the website, there is a lot of document available, and there are some key documents we should know. And as part of the CISSP preparation, you are not expected to read the whole document from A to Z, like all the 100 or 150 pages of every document, but you should know the overview of the documents, which document is meant for what purpose, and how these document approach to the subject, right? So let's go to the drawing board and see what understanding we can derive from different documentations, and what documentations are important for CISSP exam. And I will try my level best to present you the introduction of those documents in a way that you can keep those things in your memory. And when we discuss further risk management, risk assessment, risk management framework, you will be able to kind of recall these document name, and will see the relevance, right? So let's jump to the drawing board and see what those documents are. So this is my drawing desk. This diagram is quite messy, but don't worry, I will make it easy. Now, this sentence, Nist special publication, just focus on this sentence. Nist special publication is a set of document, basically. What a special publication means, frankly, I don't know. It could be some reason, there will be some reason behind it, but there is something called SP series, which is called a special document, special publication, right? Now, one document which is very important here is NIST 839. This document, let me take a highlighter. NIST 839. This is a very important document. And what is this document about? This document is about managing information security risk. So if we are going to discuss how to manage information security risk, what is the primary reference material we should refer? We should refer NIST 839. Now, there are ISO, IEC standard as well, and based on my understanding, I have mapped the closest ISO, IEC, standard as well here. So ISO, IEC 31000, this one. This talks about risk management and risk management principle and guidelines. So I think that this ISO standard is closely related or closely similar, not related, closely similar to NIST 839. If this understanding is not right and you think that there is some correction to this understanding, you can comment me in the video. I am still I'm not claiming myself to be 100% right at all the time. I am giving you this information based on what reference material I used to prepare and the understanding I got developed, and I passed my CISSP exam. And this is the closest understanding I developed when I was studying NIST for risk management, right? So 839 NIST special publication 839, which was released in March 2011, right? It talks about managing information security risk. And when it talks managing information security risk, it present the risk management in terms of organization, mission, and information system view. If you recall my first or second video in the series, which I am actually preparing for CISSP, I talked about information system a long time back, right? So this documentation gives these three tier of the whole information system. Tier 1 is called organization, tier 2 is mission or objective, and tier 3 is information system, right? So organization view, mission and objective view, and information system view, right? Now information system view is tier 3, where you have got NIST 837. So how can I, let me pick a color here, this color, and let's make it more thick. So information system view, this guy is related with 837. I think I messed up big time. So this guy is, so NIST 837 provides a framework to explain or to address information system view of NIST 839, right? I think you can relate now. 837 kind of helps 839 for tier 3, right? This is something which you should keep in mind. Now what is NIST 837? NIST 837 is basically risk management framework, and this risk management framework is for information system basically, right? It was the last final publication was in December 2018, and at this date and time we are talking about revision 2. So revision 2 NIST 837, it gives an idea of risk management framework for information system and organization. Wherever you see IS, it means information system, ORGS means organization in my drawings, right? So NIST 837 is risk management framework for information system and organization. What it is basically, this document is a system lifecycle approach for security and privacy, right? So this is something you should know, and this 837 is used to describe information system of NIST 839, right? I hope this is clear. Now 839 is managing the overall information security risk and how it manages or how it explains that management, right? So this information security risk management is explained for federal agencies and contractors. This process includes four distinct steps. One is framing, second step is assessing, third is responding, and fourth is monitoring, right? So I will again rephrase the story. We are talking about NIST 839. NIST 839 is the information security risk management, how we are managing risk of an organization. This document is specifically written for federal agencies and contractors, although other organizations can also adopt this document and tailor it to their needs. Now, NIST 839 has got four distinct steps where it explains how risk can be managed in an organization, and those steps are: step 1 is framing, step 2 is assessing, step 3 is responding, step 4 is monitoring. Even if you don't read the document, you can understand like firsthand what these steps could mean, right? Now, this step number 2, which is assessing the risk, is addressed in another NIST document, which is 830, right? So you are getting the chain. 839 is basically the master overall risk management document. It has got 3 tier: the organization, mission objective, and information system. The information system is basically the risk management framework for all the hardware, software, and information system which we have in the organization, and it is documented in NIST 837, right? So that was the framework segmentation, I will say, for information system of 839. Now 839 has got 4 steps, and the second step, which is the assessment of risk, which we usually call risk assessment, is addressed in NIST 830, right? Now 830, what it does: 830 revision 1, which was released in September 2012, 17th September 2012 to be precise, it focuses exclusively on risk assessment, right? So 839 is overall risk management, which has got 4 steps. The second step, risk assessment, is dealt specifically in a different document, which is 830, right? I think this chain you should have in mind: 839 master risk management document, 837 addresses the information system risk management framework, 830 explains the risk assessment process. Okay, now let's move forward. Now risk assessment it covers 4 elements of classical risk assessment, which is assessment for the threat, vulnerability, impact, and likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability. Right? I think, explained all these terms in my previous video. So if you want to understand, you can refer my previous video in English and Hindi as well. I have created one video. Right. I have explained this thing as well. This thing in a linear way as well. But however, if you refer the NIST documentation, it is like this. So frame is in between, and then you have assess, respond, monitor, right? And these are bidirectional relationship. I will encourage you to go into the NIST documentation, NIST website, and read it for yourself. The objective of this video is to give you 1,000 feet idea of what documents covers what, right? So I already explained that first what we do, we frame the risk. Framing the risk means thinking about the risk from its assumption and constant point of view. So what are the risk assumptions we are taking in? What are the constraints? How much tolerance I have for the risk? What are the priorities and what are the trade-offs? So this will actually provide a frame for further risk assessment. Now, when we go to risk assessment, what we do in risk assessment? In risk assessment, we do an assessment for the threat, vulnerabilities, impact, and likelihood. In impact is sometimes referred as harm, and I already explained that this whole thing, the second step of risk management, is NIST 830. And what is the whole step? If you can recall, this is 839, right? Now, when we respond to risk, we know the classical risk avoidance or risk mitigation, risk transfer, risk sharing. So those kind of thing will come in responding risk. But on the approach to respond risk is documented in NIST like this. First, we develop the alternative course of action to address a risk. Then we evaluate the alternative course of action. Then we determine appropriate course of action. So this determination of appropriate course of action is where we decide whether we will accept the risk, we will mitigate the risk, we will avoid the risk, we will share the risk, we will transfer the risk. So those kind of thing will come here on step number 3. Then we implement the risk response, whatever risk response we think, except if we are gonna accept the risk, then we just document the risk and take a management approval. Except apart from that, everything will require some sort of implementation and agreement. So we go for implement the risk response based on selected course of action, of course, right? So it has got 1, 2, 3, 4 step. Now, once we have responded to risk, then we monitor this, right? How we monitor? We verify the measures, countermeasures which we have taken. Then we determine the effectiveness of those measures. Then we identify risk impacting changes, like if we have deployed a countermeasure and any slight change to the environment, then we have to do the risk assessment again, because the change will basically bring a new actually it will either increase or decrease the baseline, right? So then we have to do a re-evaluation. So this is a brief of the documentation which we should know as of now for as far as the risk is concerned. I will again summarize. 839, NIST 839, key document. It is the master or mother document, you will say. It deals with managing how we manage information security risk. It explains information security risk for an enterprise in 3 tiers: organization, mission objective, information system. In information system view or information system tier, we use NIST 837 revision 2. NIST 837 is basically risk management framework. Now, when we go for managing information security risk, then there are basically 4 steps. We frame, assess, respond, and monitor. When we do the second step, risk assessment, it is explained in NIST 830, right? And what it assesses, it do an assessment of threats, vulnerability, impact, and likelihood. Impact is also referred as harm sometime, right? So there are some ISO documentation also. I have kind of mapped it here. If you find this not appropriate, comment me in, and if you wanna educate me, I will be more than happy to get some more information on that. Thing which I haven't explained so far in this document is NIST 853, which is recommended security control for federal information system and organization, right? So however, the revised revision 5 is named as security and privacy control for information and organization, information system and organization, sorry. The biggest difference between revision 5 and revision 4 is revision 5 is mostly outcome based. It's more democratic in nature, I will say, when it comes to how we apply the controls. We just don't apply the control because a control is defined in some way, but we more focus on how is the outcome coming when we deploy this control. This is one point which we should understand. It included personally identifiable information. It talks about privacy and supply chain risk management. So these are the things which are unique to revision 5. And yes, so this is 853. So if any organization is going to have their own information security policy document, they can take NIST 853 as a reference, and they can develop their own information security policy, or they can follow as it is, whatever NIST 853 is documented, right? They can do tailoring and scoping, and then create their own documentation. So this is NIST 853. Now, when we go for an assessment for an organization who is running NIST 853, then we take help of 853A, which is the guide for assessing the security controls. I have seen many questions in exam when I was practicing for CISSP, and I always did this mistake that the question was asking that which NIST standard is used to guide the information security control assessment, and all the time I put a tick mark on 853. It's wrong. 853A is used for assessment. So whenever you see this word assessment, you have to choose the option which says 853A, right? And whenever it says what are the recommended security control described in what document, then 853. So this is something which is a tip for the exam. And yeah, I think I explained everything. 830, 839, 37, 53, 53A. Now, one more point which I missed, I think, to say this line, that 830 acts as a supplementing document for 839. And you can figure out why it says so, because 830 deals with a specific step, which is step number 2, risk assessment of the master document 839. That's why it's called a supporting document for 839. With that note, I hope this video have been useful to you. If you like my work, you can subscribe to my channel. This is one way to support my work. And if you really like this video and you got to know something new, some new perspective, high level information which can help you in CISSP exam, you can put a thumbs up to show your support. Hope to see you again. Next, what we are going to discuss is risk management, how we do risk management. I think I have already given a fair bit of information how we do risk management in the last paragraph of this drawing. But I will discuss more in terms of how the Cybex 9th edition book explains this concept and what are the important things for CISSP exams. Thanks for watching the video. Let's meet in the next video.